Hello, welcome to Delphian Online Learning and Fun with Grammar. We're going to be going over some grammar definitions today and things to know about grammar. And we are using some materials here from Heron Books. We're going to use this book, How to Break It Down and Make It Work for You, which is about a lot of basics with grammar. You don't actually have to have this downloaded. You'll just see it on the screen with me. And also you might have seen a link to this workbook, which you can do at home after, but you don't need it right now. So if you're trying to get that on your computer, don't worry about it right now. There's also a learning guide that you can download, and that's to do later. It gives you a set of instructions that you can follow as you go. All right, so let's see who we have here so far. We have a lot of people. Adeline, hello. Abel, Andrea, Sophia. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started here pretty soon. I've never done a webinar before. I'm a supervisor here at the Delphian School, and we teach students directly, so every student is working on at their own thing, at their own time. So this is very different from me to try to teach many of you at the same time. This might be pretty easy. I want to go over some basic definitions about grammar to make it very understandable for you. But also if you want to know anything, type it in as a question. Or if you think you need some more help on something, let me know. And if it's too easy, well, you can let me know if you have any particular questions and I'll see if I can answer them for you. All right, so let's see here. We have quite a few of you here now. So we're going to get started in just one more minute. And mainly I'll be reading you information from this Working with Grammar book that you have. And we'll be doing some drills and things like that. Okay. Good. So first I want to go over the definition of grammar. What is this subject that you learn in school? Let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the book here and we'll look at the definition of grammar. All right, so this is the same book I was just showing to you. We're going to scroll down to the definition. Okay, here we go. No, one more page. Okay, we're going to skip all this beginning stuff for now. Okay, right here it says again, grammar is simply how words are put together so that they make sense. So that's all that the subject of grammar is. It's putting words together in a way that people can understand you when you speak or when you write, and you can understand them. And if you do it in any other way, then people are confused or they don't understand you as well. So why is it a good idea to have good grammar? It's so you can speak properly, so you can be understood, so you can understand others when they're speaking. It's especially good if you have any interest in writing, which is useful for all people. All adults write daily emails, or they write things for work, or they write letters to business people. And if you can write with good grammar, people will respect you, and also they'll think you're smart. And I bet that you guys watching me are pretty smart. So in order for people to also think you're smart, it is very helpful to have good grammar. Another reason to have good grammar is because it enables you to read books that are the most incredible books in the world, possibly. The books that people have been reading for hundreds of years and saying are the best books ever. They don't make any sense unless you can sort them out with grammar. And it's like a giant puzzle that you can put together if you know grammar well. All right. Good, so we're going to read a little bit of this page to go over some basics, and then we'll talk about a few things. All right, grammar. Many people, young and old, have the idea that grammar is hard or that it's a subject they don't like. If you are one of those people, here's something to think about. Maybe the reason it didn't go well has nothing to do with you. Maybe the problem was with the book or class or teacher. You don't have to like grammar as your favorite subject, but it isn't actually hard. Grammar is just how words are put together so that they make sense. That's all. Again, grammar is simply how words are put together so that they make sense. Most of learning grammar just comes from listening to people who speak it correctly and reading books that are well written. If you read and listen to people who use English well, you will learn what sounds right. You will end up speaking and writing with good grammar. So you've already started your first grammar lesson. Okay, and here it says what your first grammar lesson is, and it's this. Try to speak a lot with people who use English well and read lots of well-written books. Okay, so what does this mean, try to speak a lot with people who use English well? I don't know if you have a younger brother or sister, like maybe a 2 or 3-year-old, or you've seen little kids, and you are cute because they're mixing up their words, they're saying got it instead of got, and doing very cute things with their words. So they haven't learned grammar yet. So that's an example of someone who doesn't know it very well. Or you might have friends from another country who haven't lived here very long and are still learning grammar. So that's an example of people who don't yet have perfect grammar or good grammar. So who do you know who has excellent grammar? Who can you think of that you think speaks very well? And that's the kind of person that you want to just practice talking with, and that will improve your grammar. Okay, then it says read lots of well-written books. That's an easy one. This can be from when you're a little kid to an adult, just read lots of books. It can be Harry Potter, Dr. Seuss, Roald Dahl, whoever you want to read a lot of them and your grammar will do great. Okay, now it says, and by doing a lot of reading aloud, you will hear how words go together to make interesting and effective communication. So this is about reading aloud. Reading aloud is a really excellent way to improve your grammar and your writing skills. You can read to your parents at bedtime, like they probably did for you when you were little. You can read to a younger brother or sister. Sometimes in school, teachers will really appreciate it if you read to other students. And also, if you like being read to, that's also very helpful. So feel free to do that no matter how old you are. All right. And it says, plus reading aloud can be a lot of fun. Okay, that's true. Good. So now I have a quick question for you. So who do you know who speaks English very well that you could talk to? So give me some questions there. And you can type them in your question and answer box and I'll start answering things. If you have any questions, let me know. Good, I'm hearing from some people. Jordan, Elijah, great. Okay, Henry, that's excellent, good. Okay, very good. Good, someone said their granddad, their parents. Okay, good, thank you. All right, so we're going to read one more part of this book here. Just a little section of it. Okay, so this here is the second lesson about grammar. The goal of learning anything about grammar is not to have perfect grammar. And I think that's great because I definitely do not have perfect grammar and I don't expect you to have perfect grammar, but you can learn a lot about grammar and become pretty professional at it without being perfect. So it says here, the goal is communication. You won't be able to communicate well with people, and if your grammar is really good, people will understand you. And that is the point. Okay, so for a minute, we're going to talk about something kind of random. It's how language was invented in the first place. So take a minute and think, like, how do you think language came about? Because we had people like this here. There we go. Okay, so back in the day when people like this were wandering around, they didn't actually have any language. So After a while, they found it annoying to just sort of grunt at each other and try to communicate without any language. It would be really frustrating. So they looked around them and they said, okay, eventually, over thousands or who knows how many years, they would look at something and give it a name. Like we'll take, here's a rock. You can barely see it in the corner there, but we have a rock. Okay, so eventually, if different people all started calling this rock, then we get a name for something, and now we have a word, where before there weren't any words. Okay, and the first words were things like rock and shell. I'm making up the first words, I have no idea what they were. But they were things that you can actually see, and things like this are called nouns. So I think probably people came up with nouns as a way to talk about the world around them and talk about the sky and the mammoth coming to eat them or whatever they were talking about. So they made nouns. All right. And what's important is that everybody agrees on these nouns. They say, oh, rock, that means this thing right here. And people started to all know when you said rock, you meant a rock. Okay, the next thing that was probably invented, I'm thinking, is verbs. And those are action words like run and jump and eat and sleep. So people started to invent these words called verbs. But the whole point of grammar is that everybody has to agree on them. And that's how language came about. And that's the same way that grammar rules exist now. It's what everybody agrees is the way it is. And these agreements can change over time, but that's how I think grammar came about. All right. Good, so now we're going to look at some examples. So if grammar is putting things together in a way that makes sense, so what's bad grammar? Let's look at an example of that. I'll show you a sentence I made for you. Okay, so we're going to read the sentence. Okay, a children giggle and shrieks when dad is tickling bottoms of foot there. All right, so now I'm going to look at your questions. I see you guys have some questions coming in. Tell me what you think that means. A children giggle and shrieks when dad is tickling bottoms of feet there. All right, I'm going to look at some of your questions. Okay, Emmett says that's bad grammar. That's right. Good. Does anybody have an idea what the actual sentence means? Okay, good. All right, Versailles says everything is wrong with that sentence. That's right, Versailles. Everything is wrong with that sentence. Good. And okay, Henry has a pretty good idea. The children giggle and squeak when their dad tickles the bottom of their feet. Yes, okay, good job. Many of you have sort of figured that out, so that's great. All right, so here's what it's supposed to say. The children giggled and shrieked. Shriek is like when you make a really high-pitched, high sound. The children giggled and shrieked when their dad tickled the bottoms of their feet. Good, okay, so let's do another one. So you saw an example of terrible grammar, and then this is proper grammar here. So here's a new one. Okay, days of sailored shipwrecks floated in sea and are finally rescuing mysterious vessel. Okay, vessel is a fancy word for a type of boat, or just any kind of boat or ship. Shipwrecks can mean different things. It can mean a boat that sunk or crashed, or if you use it in a certain way, it can mean the people who were on the boat who are now trying to get to safety somewhere. So there's another terrible grammar sentence. Days of sailored shipwrecks floated in sea and are finally rescuing mysterious vessel. Okay, so let me see what one or two of you thinks that one means. This one's a little bit harder. Anybody have an idea? Good. Okay, good. Adeline has a pretty good idea. She says a ship crashed and people needed help and it finally came. Yeah, that's pretty close. Good. Okay, Abel is answering, what are sailored shipwrecks? That's a very good question because it doesn't make any sense and there's no such thing as sailored shipwrecks. It's because the words are all mixed up on how they should be. Okay, so let's do what this one's really trying to say. Here it is. Oh, here it is. Okay. For days, the shipwrecked sailors floated at sea until they were finally rescued by a mysterious vessel. All right, so all of a sudden it makes more sense. The sailors were floating at sea, they were shipwrecked, and they were rescued by a vessel instead of the other way around. Good, so that's an example of how your proper grammar can make more sense. All right, I think I have some questions here. Let me see if I can answer this. Okay, I think people were confused by the terrible grammar. So I'll just answer them real quick. Okay, Henry is saying that the cavemen or old humans needed adjectives to say big mammoth coming run. That's right, so you do need adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe things, and the early man or cavemen or whatever you want to call them, they needed adjectives eventually to say what kind of a mammoth. It was a big mammoth. So good, Henry. Okay, and good. Excellent. All right, so let's see what's next here. Oh, I wanted you guys to practice your bad grammar really quickly. So I'm going to say start, and what I want you to do is to go find someone and tell them something with really bad grammar. And notice what their reaction is, and then tell them with proper English, and then see if they understand you more easily, and then run back and try to type to me what your bad grammar sentence was. So let me hear some of those. Okay, Jordan says, food need I. Okay, that was good. Excellent. Aiden says, the sky falled-ed, down-ed to my home-ed. That's awesome. Okay, and okay. Emmett says, fly birds went. Good. Elijah says, did you wanted to play? Okay, you guys are awesome at this. Good. So one of the reasons to use bad grammar, one of the reasons to know grammar is you can use it incorrectly when you want to. You can do it to your sentences incorrect on purpose to create a certain effect. But you have to know good grammar in order to be able to do that. Okay, and I see Dexter here. Hi, Dexter. It says, you say me can have ice cream. Okay, that was awesome. Good job. All right, now, okay, we're going to read a little bit more from the workbook. Okay, we're going to go over another grammar word here. It's actually 3 words, but 3 words that work together to mean one thing. Okay, here we go. Words. We're reading at the top here. Every word in a sentence has some kind of job to do. Some words name things, others show action or being, still others describe things, and so on. Understanding how words go together requires understanding the different jobs they do. The names of the jobs that words do are called parts of speech. Good, so I want to go over these words, parts of speech. So I think most of you know what parts means, most likely all of you, like a hand is a part of your body. But this word I thought was really interesting when I looked at it the other night, speech. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and speech is the act of talking. You probably know that already. It also means the ability to talk, like dogs don't have speech and humans do. Or it means the way in which you talk, like somebody can have very fancy speech or very interesting speech. And none of the definitions of speech have anything to do with writing. It really has to do with speaking words out of your mouth. But when you put these words all together, the parts of speech are the different parts, the different jobs that words do when you're speaking. But in this case, it also means when you're writing, even though speech doesn't mean that. So that's parts of speech. Okay, so now let's read a little bit more about parts of speech right here. Parts of speech. When you speak, there are parts. Yes, sentences and words are parts of speaking and writing, but parts of speech are what the words are doing, what jobs they have. We've already talked about 2 examples, nouns and verbs. All right, good. So now, I also looked up when I was figuring out this webinar, like how many parts of speech are there? I thought maybe there were a lot, but there's actually 8, 9, or 10. So you only have to learn 8, 9, or 10. And we're not going to go over those all today. And the reason that it's a different number, like I told you, grammar is agreement. So there's a little lack of agreement there. So we're not sure if there's 8, 9, or 10, but you can learn each of those, and so that's pretty easy to do. All right, so now, nouns. We're going to read a tiny bit about nouns. Words with the job of naming something are nouns. Nouns are a part of speech. Dog is a noun because it has the job of naming a type of animal. All words that name people, places, or things, even things you can't touch, are nouns, such as James, New York, apple, house, and happiness. Okay, I bet most of you are probably already pretty familiar with nouns, and I'm guessing it's not much of trouble for you if you've learned it, except for maybe this part about even things you can't touch. Sometimes those kind of nouns are a little bit tricky. So one way that I found is sort of a trick for telling if things are nouns or not is you see if you can have it. So if you look around the room right now and see if there are some things that you can have, those things are all nouns. Like I see a camera, so camera is a noun, and a computer, that's a noun, and rock, that's a noun. All right, so go ahead and look around your room real quick and call off 5 things that you could have, which is going to be nouns. Okay, good. All right, so now the hard part is ones you can't touch. So we have one example here, which is happiness. All right, so you can have happiness. Okay, and I have a few other examples here. Okay, a few other examples. Hunger. So if you have hunger, that's a noun. If you're a little bit sick and you have a cold is a noun. If you're really excited because you're going to Disneyland, excitement is a noun. You can have excitement. Or a vacation, you can have a vacation. That's a noun. So I want you to send me a couple nouns that you can't touch. And let's see if that's easy, if you have any questions on that. So let me see your answers on that one. Okay, I have fun. That's right, fun is a noun. My brain, good. That's true, you can't really touch your brain, it's in your head. Sadness, yes, that's right. And anger, good. Okay, you guys are awesome at this. George Washington, that's true. We could have touched him if he were alive, but he's not alive, so we can't touch George Washington. Good job. Okay, that's excellent. All right. So I see several requests for pronouns here. So I'm going to skip what we were going to talk about with verbs. I want to tell you a little bit about pronouns. We're going to bounce around a little bit. Okay, so first I'm going to teach you, I'm going to tell you something about a country. It's not a country, it was a language. There's a language called Latin. And this language is from thousands of years ago, and people don't speak it anymore. But a lot of the words that we use come from Latin. So let me show you this map about where Latin was spoke once upon a time. Okay, so here's a map of ancient Rome. That's the name of the place where they spoke Latin. All this purple stuff is where they spoke Latin. So this is Spain. It's still called Spain now. This is France. This is England up here, Italy, all these purple areas, Egypt, Morocco. Okay, so they spoke Latin there. Now, why am I telling you about Latin? It's because the word for noun comes from Latin. It's the Latin word nomen, and nomen meant name. So we were going over how nouns are naming things, and that comes from nomen, meaning name. All right, so now pronoun. I don't know how many of you know what pronouns are, which I have to get the definition here, but pronoun obviously comes from the word noun, which means name, and also the word pro, which back in Latin, it meant in the place of. So you have in the place of a name, and that's what a pronoun is. So an example of a pronoun is I. So my name is Alyssa, and I is a different way of saying Alyssa. We're using that word in the place of a noun or the place of a name. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to read you some of this. All right, another part of speech is the pronoun. It is a word that takes the place of a noun. We use pronouns so we don't need to repeat the names of things over and over. So that's like when we say I or me for Alyssa. Instead of saying Alyssa likes to go to the store, I would say I like to go to the store. It's simpler. Compare the examples below where the pronouns he, her, and it are used. Okay, with nouns. Mrs. Jones threw the ball to the dog and the dog caught the ball. All right, so here it says without nouns. They just mean that now they're using pronouns instead. Mrs. Jones threw the ball to the dog and he caught it. So he takes the place of the dog and it takes the place of the ball. Okay, here's another one. Where is Mary's flower? The man gave the flower to Mary. And where is Mary's flower? The man gave it, the flower, to her, to Mary. Good, so that is the basic on pronouns. I'm gonna go over a little bit more of that later, but there are different types of pronouns, and we have this book here is what we're reading from, and then there is this workbook, which has all these drills, all these various drills you can do, and this is all downloaded for you, or you can download it, and in the back of it are the answers to all of the drills. So if you have questions with pronouns, do learning guide number 1, and that will give you some more data. Okay, for now, we're gonna stop talking about pronouns for a minute, and we're gonna do a little bit of Madlibs. Okay, let me just see what you guys are saying before we switch over to there. Good, you have so many great answers. This is awesome. Somebody's brother knows Latin. That's Shane. Awesome, Shane. That's very cool. It's true, you can still learn Latin. I learned it when I was in grade school as well. And Henry says English, French, and Spanish all came from Latin. Good, that's right. And several people are sending me pronouns. Good job on those. Someone wants to know the name of the book. Okay, so you can sort of see it in the window here, how to break it down and make it work for you. It's actually called Working with Grammar at the top. But your parents will be able to help you because it's downloadable once you're done. Okay, good. Okay, thank you for all your questions. Madlibs. Okay, so I'm always telling my students about derivations. It makes them a little bit crazy, but I'm gonna tell you more. Derivation means where a word comes from. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about derivations because we're doing Madlibs, except not actually Madlibs because I wrote these. So what does Madlibs mean? Why did they come up with that name? It's because ad-lib means to make something up. You just make it up all of a sudden. For example, if you're an actor, you can have a script and it has all the lines you're supposed to learn and you say those words exactly. If you're doing Ad-lib, you're making up the lines as you go. And what does mad mean? Mad means angry, most of you think, and that's true, but it also means crazy. So the two people who were inventing Mad Libs, they were listening to a dinner conversation of someone nearby, and I think they were in Hollywood. So they were listening to people talking about actors doing ad lib and about someone being really mad. So they put it together and they said, let's call it Mad Libs. So crazy things that you invent. And I forgot to tell you the Latin part, but ad lib is short for ad libitum. And in Latin, that means as you wish, like Wesley from The Princess Bride, as you wish. So that is ad libs. Here we go. Here's a very simple word game. We're copying Mad Libs. Okay, once there was a noun named noun. We need a person's name. You guys can start sending me nouns and people's names so I can plug them in here. We'll repeat the name. Was verb ending in ing, so any kind of verb showing the action is going on, running, jumping, hiking, through the forest in noun place. Okay, you guys I'm sure are doing great reading this. So start sending me your answers. I'm gonna write them down so I can plug them into our story, and then we'll go back to pronouns a little bit more. Hi, Cosmo. We're going to use bat. Thank you. All right, let's see. Give me 1 second while I figure out doing these two things at the same time of reading the ad libs and entering your questions. I think we'll put this on the screen. You can see it. Good. Okay, let me see if I can enter some of these. Oh, interesting. Okay, I need 1 more second. Thanks for waiting for me. Okay, I'm going to answer a question really quickly. Andrea, sometimes languages just change. Her question is, why don't people use Latin anymore? Just like the cavemen or the early men were inventing language as they went. There wasn't any language. And then people go to move to different parts of the world, and they keep inventing language, and they keep changing the agreement on how the grammar works. So eventually, the languages changed. And so one of the really common languages to Latin, it's actually Italian now. So if you go to Italy, they'll still speak Italian. Okay, hopefully I have enough words here written down for the story. Okay, here we go. So once there was a bat named Bob. Bob was swimming through the forest in Paris when he came upon a huge car. He beatboxed and danced into the river. Oh no, he thought as he floated down the river. There's a car coming up. I missed some more verbs. I better swim. Bob flew with all his energy and jumped onto a dog. Phew, he said, that was a close call. Okay, good job, everybody. All right, so now we're gonna go back to pronouns again. Let's find out, we're just gonna practice a little thing more with pronouns. We're not gonna talk about the types of pronouns, but I can help you a little bit afterwards, or you can do the learning guide. Okay, but here's one thing to know about pronouns that's kind of interesting. So when you're using pronouns, you will make your sentences clear if you use a singular pronoun when the noun it replaces is singular. Okay, so we're going to be talking about two words, which is singular and plural. Singular means one, plural is 2, 3, 4. Anything more than one is plural. So again, it says you will make your sentences clear if you use a singular pronoun when the noun it replaces is singular. So let's jump down to this example. Okay, this is not very clear because they're using their pronouns wrongly. My mother knows how to sew well, but they didn't make my prom dress. Okay, so here it is properly. My mother knows how to sew well, but she didn't make my prom dress. So we have a singular pronoun to replace the word mother instead of a plural, which is more than one, instead of a plural pronoun. And here it says, again, jumping back up top, similarly, a pronoun would be plural if the noun it replaces is plural. I have to tell you one more Latin word. So plural comes from the Latin word plus, which is just like adding. It just means more. So plural is anything more than one. Okay, so let's look at the bad example where we're supposed to have a plural pronoun, but instead we have a singular pronoun. When I finished reading the letter, I threw them away. Instead of, when I finished reading the letter, I threw it away. There's a few more examples. Anya saw the shoes in the store and decided to try it on. And it should be Anya saw the shoes in the store and decided to try them on, because them replaces the shoes. And Tom and John went to the game together and he enjoyed it. But we're talking about Tom and John, so it should be Tom and John went to the game together and they enjoyed it. Okay, so it's time to practice your bad grammar again. So I want you to send me a sentence, it can be 2 sentences if you want, where you have a singular noun and you use a plural pronoun by accident, like they or we or us or something like that. So let me see your examples for that one. And while you're doing that, I'm going to answer a question. Okay, Emily is asking, is grammar harder if you speak more than one language? Actually, no, I don't think so. I only speak English, so I'm not the best judge of this. I know some parts of other languages. But if you really learn grammar very well in your own language, like if it's English, really learn the rules of grammar very well in English, you'll have a much better time learning other languages. If you try to learn other languages and you don't know grammar in English, it's practically impossible to learn the other language perfectly because you don't understand the rules that you're talking about. So learn grammar, and that's another benefit, is you can learn other languages better. Okay. Abel's asking me a really interesting question about, I'm going to read the question and try to figure out the answer. It says, but what if there are 0 things? Wouldn't it be plural for things? So that's a great question. Let's think about that. So yeah, so I have a rock, or I have 0 rocks. You don't say 0 rock. So Abel, that's super weird, and you're totally right. 0 gets a plural. That's just weird. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, good. So here's an example of these wrong pronouns. They dogs fighted right now. Good. We have several things that aren't working out there. Good. Here's an example of bad grammar. I am a fugitive. That's like when you're in trouble with the law and you're running away. I am a fugitive, so they fled the country, where it should be I am a fugitive, so I fled the country. Good. Let me answer a question here. Okay, Versailles says the stuffed animals were on the bed and it were in a big pile. Good, that's right, because it should be the stuffed animals were on the bed and they were in a big pile. Okay, good, so you guys have the idea. All right. Ooh, here's another good one. Okay, so now this is getting into verbs again instead of pronouns, but it's a good example. So it says, I were crying. Okay, so you all know that you would say, I was crying. That's because verbs also can be singular and plural. So I were crying, were is a plural verb. It should be we were crying or I was crying. So that's a good job. Okay, here's another question. Let me see if I can answer this one. Okay, Dexter's asking if leaf is single, would leaves be plural? Oh, yes, that's right. That's perfect. Yes, okay. Good. And one more incorrect example done very well. McKenna and Ava went to the park. She liked it. That's right. You did a good job being wrong. It should be McKenna and Ava went to the park. They liked it. Good. Good job, everybody. Okay, let's do one more Madlibs section here. And then we might get into, well, we don't have much time, but we'll start with the Madlibs and then see what we can do from there. Okay. Good. Here's our last story. So I'm going to do a better job writing down your answers now. So give me a noun, which is a person's name, and then a pronoun and a noun. This is a special kind of pronoun here that I want. In this case, it's called possessive. That means that you own something. Like you can say, I possess a house, means you own it. So we want a pronoun that shows you own things, like my book, his shirt, our house, their dog. So give me a pronoun that's possessive there. And I'm just writing down what words I'm going to ask you. Okay, let me go see what your answers are. Gayatri, thank you. Your name is very cool. I like how you say it. Okay, here we go. Good. Cosmo, we'll use your pronoun there. Good. I said verbs in the past. I didn't talk about past, but that just means things that happened before, like ran, jumped, ate, fell. Okay, who's going to give me a past tense verb? And then I need another plural noun. There we go. I got some verbs. Aiden and Brittany said one. Okay. Good. I have some more nouns. I need some more plural nouns. Ooh, good verbs. I'm still getting your verbs. Those are excellent. Okay, there's some nouns. And I need another pronoun. Okay, in this case, if I remember right, we want one like she, he. It's like when you're talking about the person. Give me a pronoun like that. Ooh, I got one here. Good. And good. Nice. Oh, good. Lots of pronouns. Good. Ah, I have a really good question here. Okay, thank you. I got all the nouns and verbs that I need. I'll read the Adlibs in a second. Okay, so Emmett is asking, I'm still wondering why New York is a noun if it isn't something you can have. Well, my trick is not perfect, so thank you for pointing that out. You can touch it though, sort of. You could go to New York and put your body there and touch it. But I guess places don't work. You can't exactly have people, huh? Maybe it's better for the ideas of things, like you can have fun. So that was a good question, thanks. Okay, so let's read our word game now. Here we go. Okay, one sunny afternoon, Daisy left to go on a camping trip with his bat. The camping ground was a grassy stretch of land near a gardener. When they got there, they ran all of their supplies: a tent, blankets, sleeping rock, s'mores, and oranges. They spent the day in the water, only getting out to lay in the sun and eat cars. Later that night, they told scary stories around the mouse and toasted dolls. Ew. Okay, gross. They thought it was a perfect ending to the Godzilla. All right, very good. Thank you guys for your pronouns and your nouns. That was excellent. Okay, and I think that we're about out of time here. So again, I know that some of you had more questions about pronouns. Please download the learning guide. And I think you'll get your questions answered there along with the book and the workbook. And thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your grammar. Wait, I see raised hands. Let me see if I can find them. Nope, that's all. Okay, thanks very much, guys. Bye. Phew. Okay.
That was great.
Thanks, James. Phew.
All I did was stand here and give you occasional thumbs up and laugh at things.
Okay, good. That was fun.
Yeah. Roasted dolls.
Roasted dolls. That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
So raised hands, that's interesting. Oh, there's more questions now. Okay.
So yeah.
So raised hands are the same as when they just type in here. Oh, we can still hear you, 9:48. I'm still recording. Thank you.